Faith moves mountains. Faith moves mountains. I keep my eyes on high. Mustard seed in my hand. Faith moves mountains. Faith moves mountains. If all it takes is faith, then
Welcome to today's episode. Of course, it's me, your host, Rebecca Hall, and we have a very special guest today with us. Today, we're having a conversation that may be difficult for some people to hear, but it is incredibly important to have. We're talking about human trafficking, not just through statistics or the headlines of what we see on television or what we hear from just word of mouth through the books or through people. We're actually going to speak with someone and allow her to use her voice who has lived it and survived it. But before we begin, I want to acknowledge that this conversation may include some discussions about trafficking, exploitation, abuse, trauma, and recovery. So please take time to take care of yourself, whether or not you need to pause this podcast and take a break and then come back and listen to it later, or whether or not it just might be too much for you, and that's okay. Know your limits. I also want to make something very clear. Our guest is more than what she has experienced and what has happened to her. This conversation is not about asking for her to relive her trauma or for her to understand or for our understanding for entertainment. This is simply listening, learning, challenging misconceptions that we have been taught, and creating space for her to tell her story in a way that she chooses. Throughout this conversation, she has complete control over whatever she wants to share. There may be some questions that she chooses not to answer, and that's perfectly okay. There may be some details that she chooses to keep private, and that's part of her story, and that belongs to her. And we will honor that in every capacity. So today we're going to talk about some of the realities of human trafficking, how grooming and control can happen, why leaving isn't always as simple as we may think, and what life healing and rebuilding can look like afterward. But most importantly, we're going to talk about the person beyond the trauma, the strength, her identity, her purpose, and life that exists beyond surviving. Thank you for joining us for this important conversation. And to my guests, thank you for trusting this space with your voice and your story. So I want to begin with you, not with what happened to you, or not with what happened to you, but who would you like our listeners to know you are beyond your experience as a survivor?
My name is Shelby, and not only am I a human trafficking survivor, but I'm also an addict in recovery. I've been clean a little over 9 years, but I'm also a single mom. I'm a friend. I'm a daughter, and I am a trauma survivor.
So before we talk about what happened, what would you want people to know about, who you were before and who you are beyond what happened to you?
Who I was before. So my trafficking happened pretty much at the beginning of my addiction. I had some medical issues, had doctors prescribe pain medication before, pain contracts were a thing. And so I was prescribed a lot of them. That's what started my addiction. It eventually led me to the streets, which then led to my trafficking. I was very young, my early 20s, and I was a mom at that time, and my life had just fallen apart, and it just continued to fall.
Okay.
So that's kind of who I was before.
And then I thank you so much for coming onto the show. What made you feel that now was the right time to share your story?
So I have just started my bachelor's in psychology, as well as I work at a local inpatient treatment center. And I'm really getting into, I want to be a trauma counselor, and I want to use what happened to me as a strength. I don't want it to be for no reason. And I felt coming on this podcast to share my story as well could reach more people that may have either gone through this don't know what it looks like and be aware of. Or, just to know that you're not alone in this.
Yeah, of course. And I think I have told this to someone else before. I think I was even telling you, like, I feel like we need more people with the experience. I
Right.
can't go, and speak with someone about this. Well, I could, but it wouldn't be as heartfelt with a right amount of emotion and the right amount of connection is the word I'm looking for. So I think that's great, and I think we definitely need you in this profession so that you can reach those people who we feel or someone else or they may feel aren't reachable.
Right. Absolutely. This was something that I thought just happened on TV. I didn't think it was a real thing because I didn't have the education. I want to help provide that education.
Correct. And then a lot of people feel that, it has to look a certain type of way. We're going to get into that a little bit later.
Yeah.
But, it looks different for everyone. And we have a lot of misconceptions in the world. And people often ask survivors, like, why didn't you just leave? What do you wish people understood about why leaving isn't that simple?
From my personal experience, leaving was dangerous. They preyed on women that were on the streets that were alone, that didn't have anybody else. And at the time, I didn't know anybody. I was completely homeless, and they brought me to a home, and they kept me sedated with heroin so that I didn't have the choice to leave. I wasn't able to get up on my own to leave. And so that, for me personally, but leaving's dangerous. It's a lot like a domestic violence situation where it's not, you're making money for these people. This is what their income is. So leaving could be deadly.
Yeah. I thank you for highlighting, the domestic violence, because that's the first thought that went through my mind was when leaving is the most vulnerable part. That's the most dangerous part. You never know how someone is going to react because you want your freedom. A lot of times people have that misconception that you're my property, and I'm not, and when you take back that control, it's like, whoa, wait, now you're attacking my ego. You're attacking who I am as a person.
Absolutely. Yeah. For me personally, like I wasn't able to get up and leave, but I know in my situation, I was the first of 5 girls that they did this to. And as I get more into the stories, that'll make more sense. But leaving wasn't optional for me. I wasn't able to even stand up to leave on my own.
And then if you don't mind me asking, how long were you, I'm just going to call it bondage because I feel like, that's what it was. How long were you in bondage?
Luckily, only 3 days. My uncle, my uncle through marriage, was told that I was prostituting downtown, which I wasn't on my own accord. And he came in and realized what was happening and took me out of the home. I got lucky because I probably would have been there for a very long time. Their goal was to get me addicted to heroin so that I would do it willingly.
Right.
So, 3 days was absolutely long enough.
3 minutes is long enough.
Yeah,
yes.
definitely.
Without sharing anything you aren't comfortable sharing, can you talk about how the exploitation entered your life?
Absolutely. So, like I had mentioned earlier, I was on the streets. I was homeless, making quote unquote friends out there. And what I didn't know was that these people were paying others to bring them girls. So I had somebody that said, oh, well, I know where we can go get, some free drugs. And so we went to this house. And while we were there, it was a room full of people. And it was these shacks that were downtown. And it was filled. It was probably like 10 to 15 people in the shack. And all of a sudden, all I realized was 5 people were holding me down, and somebody was shoving a needle full of heroin in my side. And I woke up. They gave me too much. I woke up with the girl that was one of the main people doing this, holding me up in the shower as I was overdosing. They were trying to get me out of overdose with the cold water. And I remember telling her, just let me die. Because I knew whatever was coming next was bad, you know? And so she said, I'm sorry, we can't do that. And took me to the other main person that they were kind of like a duet in this. One provided the drugs to keep me sedated, and the other one ran the rest of it. She took me to him, where I was gang raped by him and his friends. And then they would take me to these homes where these men would buy me. And I didn't have a choice. Like, I was so out of it. I knew what was happening, but I couldn't move. I couldn't do anything. And I remember thinking, like, why would somebody want to sleep with somebody that can't do anything? You know what I mean? Like, they can't function, essentially. And I don't know. Some people are just real sick, I guess. And so that rotated for the next few days. They would do that. They would bring me back. They would sedate me with more heroin. I would fall asleep. So it took me years to put together everything that happened. And I still don't know everything that happened. So the second, I can't remember, it was the second or third day is when I was still pretty out of it, but they had another person taking me up and down, like walking, like prostituting, where I was bought a couple more times there, and then brought back to these shacks. So I remember at one point telling her, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. And it was 2 girls that took me into a bathroom and beat me. I said, you are going to do this. And then sedated me with more heroin. And then I would wake up in houses where they continued to do this. So on that third day, my uncle came in, and I vaguely remember what happened. But I remember him coming in and being angry and screaming at me, and I kept telling him, this wasn't my fault, I didn't do this. And he got in a fight with the guy that was there, that was trying to keep me there, and took me back. He took me back to his house. And that's when I started, because I was doing meth at the time before all of this happened. And that's when I started using IV meth because I wanted to die. And then that was a 9-year run after that.
I'm so sorry that happened to you, and I'm so grateful that you're here to be able to tell your story to help, other people move forward and heal and grow through what you went through as well. Do you feel like, looking back, do you feel like there were any circumstances that someone, I know you went through and you said, there were free drugs, and before all of this happened, do you feel like there was something that happened in your life that kind of led up to this, that you kind of look back now and say, this is the type of person I should have recognized, or I wish I could have recognized this person to be?
Absolutely. So my family, I grew up pretty privileged before this, and my family were the type that if we didn't talk about it, it didn't exist. So I didn't know anything about addiction. I didn't know that these things happened on more than the TV. You know what I mean? I thought human trafficking was they put you in shipping containers and took you to Mexico, and that does happen. But I had no idea it happened like this. You know what I mean? I had no idea that there were people that live on your street that prey on you this way. You know what I mean? And I didn't know this was a possibility that I could have been walking into. I had so much trust, and I had so much vulnerability, because I had no idea the things that could actually happen. If I would have had some education about it, and if I would have known, I may have been able to avoid it. I don't know, but you know what I mean? Like, I may have at least known what to possibly look for. I'll tell you, after this, I did learn very quickly what to look for, and I never trusted again.
That's kind of my next question.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No.
I didn't even look at the next one.
No. You're totally fine, and I thank you for that. You know, this is going to sound. Well, I don't know how to quite put this in a way that is politically correct. So I feel that for me and the experiences that I have gone through in life, I feel like I went through those experiences to teach because it's my place to teach the next person how to grow through those experiences. I know when I was going through what I went through a terrible divorce, and it's nothing compared to what you experienced under any circumstances. But I knew when I was trying to heal through that divorce, I couldn't find anyone that looked like me that experienced everything that I experienced. And so I struggled through that by myself, because I didn't have that camaraderie. I didn't have that friends. I didn't have that family. I didn't have anyone that quite understood what I was going through.
Right. And
so I kind of feel like that was kind of, I had to grow through that so that I could teach the next person, even if I'm just reaching one person, at least I'm teaching, or I'm helping you get through what I experienced. I don't know if you kind of feel the same, or how you feel about that.
Absolutely. So that's why I have chosen to go into trauma counseling, because to this day, I have not met another trafficking survivor. To this day, I've never had somebody tell me, okay, these are the steps and what this looks like. Just like you said, I didn't have anybody that looked like me that went through what I went through. And so, and I know I'm not the only one. I know there's women out there, and men as well, that have gone through this, that have no idea that other people have gone through it, or don't know where to find that. And I want to be that for them. This is what this looks like. And so absolutely, I agree.
Yes, 100%. What do you feel are behaviors that you now recognize as grooming that you didn't recognize before?
Being overly nice, especially to somebody that you don't know, somebody you just met. Free things are never free, especially when you're in the addict world. I didn't know that. People aren't just nice to be nice a lot of times in the addict world. I know this happens out of addiction as well, but I know it happens more in addiction than not, because they're more vulnerable in those states. So these things that I had no idea, people weren't nice just to be nice. Like, I learned really early on, and especially through this, people weren't your friends. Very rarely, I came out with a couple of very good friends. I'm not going to say nobody was. But it took me years to be able to trust that. And it took me going through this to be able to see the differences in people, and not just trust what they said to me was truth and all good intentions.
Right. Growing up, I always heard, if it sounds too good to be true, then most of the time it is.
For the most part, absolutely.
Yes. So now, thankfully, you were able to get out and, start try to put one foot in front of the other and start your life over and do things differently. What was there a turning point when you began thinking about turning your life around, doing things differently outside of, what happened to you?
Absolutely. So I learned early on because I had really bad nightmares after this happened. I actually just recently got off nightmare medication because of this. But I learned early on that if I had done a hit of dope, that I would stay up for 3 days. And if I stayed up for 3 days, I would fall out so hard that I didn't have nightmares. And that became a security blanket for me. And 9 years kind of rolled by. So about a year before I got clean, I realized I need to do something different. I have children out there I hadn't seen in years, and I was exhausted. I was now 30 and living on the streets still, never had a home over my head. I literally lived outside for a whole 10 years. And it was an exhausting life, getting up and hustling, trying to deal with the trauma of what happened to me, like everything. And I was tired. So about a year before I got clean, I had made a Facebook post about what had happened to me. And I put everything out there. And at the time, I didn't know that that was the beginning of my healing. But I had talked to somebody out there who knew me well, knew what had happened to me. And she told me, she said, you've gone through all the stages of grief over all these years. You're in the last stage, and now you need to heal. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. So about a year later, I always say I accidentally got clean, because I accidentally got clean. I had always had a motto that stated, if I said I was going to do something, I did it. So I was at the Y and got caught selling drugs in the Y. Don't do it, please. I'm on a podcast. Please don't do it.
Please don't.
I would recommend. The lady that was running it at the time happened to be in recovery herself. And so she gave me an option. She said, either you leave or you go to treatment. Well, I thought, okay, it's going to take me like a month to get into treatment. I'll find somewhere else to go, right? And I said, okay, I'll go to treatment. Sure as shit, a week later, she's got me on a bus to detox. So I did the 3 days in detox, came back. She was right there at the bus, ready to take me to sundown. So I had every intention of doing sundown and then getting out. I was going to get myself thrown out. So I was just going to be a jerk, and I was going to get thrown out. Well, the lady that got me there also had her best friend who was a counselor there. So they knew what I was doing. Yeah, I was screwed every way around. So that didn't work out for me. And about 2 weeks in, I had found out I was pregnant. So my plans didn't work out. And by the time I found out I was pregnant, it gave me a reason to stay clean, right? So I know I'm kind of getting off on that question, but that's kind of where my life started. And then once I got clean, I realized even though I took the drugs away, I still had all this trauma I hadn't dealt with, you know? So I got help, and I did extensive trauma therapy. I'm still in counseling, but the trauma therapy I completed. And that's when I realized, you know, I should have been doing this, you know, 9 years ago before I did it, but better late than never, you know, and it was time to heal and move past and stop letting this one thing determine my entire existence.
And I will definitely say it does not matter when you start, as long as you start. You know,
Right.
8-9 years ago, you didn't have the extensive experience that you have now. I mean, granted, I don't want you to go through any of it. You know, I wish everything could have been rainbows and unicorns.
Yeah, well, that's not how my life works out, so.
Yeah, I thought you'd get a kick out of that, but you know.
Yeah, definitely not the way my life has gone. No rainbows, no unicorns, but we're still kicking.
Yes, so, you know, that you are able to help someone else,
Right.
move, from that part. What do you feel like you needed most during that time, during that 8-9 year period where you were just going through the motions?
I needed somebody. I desperately needed somebody that knew how to help me get clean and help me get into trauma therapy long before I did.
Mm-hmm.
I had to find out all that myself.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that trauma therapy existed. Listen, when I first started doing drugs, I didn't even know what addiction meant.
Mm-hmm.
So I had zero clue of what to do. All I had done was survive at this point. You know what I mean? Like, I got through the day.
Mm-hmm.
And it took me that long to figure out what I needed. But if I had somebody, like we had talked about before,
Mm-hmm.
who had walked through this before, I may have been able to find a way out a lot sooner than I did.
Yes. Yep, I totally agree. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, no. I was just going to say, and that's why I want to do what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly why, because I don't want somebody to lose 10 years of their life. You know what I mean? Like, when I came back, my kids knew I was their mom, but I was a stranger.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want somebody else to have to go through that.
Right.
You know? There's a different way.
Yes, I definitely agree. I feel like, we have a lot of conversations in grade school, but I don't think, they really talk about how dire, drugs really impact the home and impact the community. And I don't really think they discuss thoroughly, like, how you can recognize the signs. And granted, kids are going to grow up to be who they are, but at least they'll have that knowledge of, this is the steps, this is what you do, this is how you do it. I can tell you that for me personally, I didn't know a lot of things until I actually got into the role of being a social worker. I didn't know about the different resources that they had in the community. I didn't know that you could, go to the hospital and tell them that you want to get clean and they'll help you go to detox. Like, I didn't know any of these things. I didn't know that, you could call 211 and they'll give you a list of, detox recovery and rehab facilities. They don't teach you I feel like they don't teach you any of this valuable information in the schools.
Yeah, no, they just say don't do it. Don't do it.
Right.
And that's all you have. And it's like, okay, but what if I do it?
Right.
Because, I wasn't out partying and doing lines of coke. Mm-hmm. I literally had medical conditions that started my addiction. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I didn't know that needing to wake up and taking a handful of Vicodin wasn't normal. You know what I mean? So I remember begging the doctor at Harborview and saying, I don't know what detox is, but if it makes this feeling stop, send me there. That's sad. I should have had some sort of knowledge of what was happening, what could happen, you know what I mean, all these things. And even if you were out there doing a line of coke, that's okay too. Trust me, I am not one to even say that's bad if that's how it started or however it started.
Right.
But having the resources and knowledge could save somebody many years of hell, you know?
Yes. So how do you feel, how do I want to word this question? How do you feel is a good way to get this knowledge out into the community?
By doing what we're doing. You know, social media is huge now. And I want to thank you for what you're doing, because you know what? This is getting this out there where back, you know, when I started using social media wasn't a thing. Smartphones weren't a thing. You know what I mean? Like the world was pretty damn dark. You know, as far as networking goes. And people like you and people like me getting this stuff out there, and then more people, you know, running across your podcast, or if they listen to you all the time, it's going to take that one thing to move that or share it, or, you know what I mean? Like whatever. And I think what we're doing now is starting to build that knowledge in that community, where it's easier to find. All you got to do is type it in a search bar.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I might be the voice that helps somebody. Sorry, my dog.
It's okay.
Stop it. You know, I might be that voice that helps somebody get years of their life back. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But if that does one person, or if they don't feel alone, that's what I feel like. I think this is a great way to get it out, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Thank you for that.
Yeah, definitely.
Within that, so while you were going through, you know, your years of addiction, did you encounter people or organizations that made you feel safe, or did they make your situation worse? What was it like encountering people on the other side? Because, you know, we are in a society, unfortunately, that a lot of times you have people that look down on other people for their life choices.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. So I have a mixture of both. So I've made some wonderful friends. I still have friends in organizations that knew me out there. The Needle Exchange would have been one of them here in town. I think her name was Emily, but she saw me every Friday, and every Friday she'd be like, okay, you know, and I remember telling her at the end, I think I want to get clean. She said, okay, if you want to get clean, we can do this. You know what I mean? Like, but she was always there. She was always smiling. She never treated me less than the human being I was. Always. So I hope this podcast finds her, because she's amazing. But it was actually crazy, because after I got clean, I ended up seeing her at a recovery function, and she was in tears, and she was like, oh my God, I thought you died. And I was like, oh, sorry, you didn't say anything when I got clean. My bad. Oops. You know, I felt bad. But people like that, you know what I mean? Like, you know, there's so many people out there. There's a woman named Robin that used to work for Connections. Another person, man, I treated her like crap a few times, and she still treated me amazing. You know what I mean? Like, there are some out there, but then there are others that treat you less than. And I've always said, anytime I've talked about my recovery, it's the people that treated me like a human being, even when I wasn't ready, are the ones that mattered. It makes me so angry. I don't know if you'll see me a lot on social media. I may argue with some people because I cannot stand how the homeless are treated and how they're blamed for everything, and it just makes me so angry about the degrading things that are said. And it's like, man, those people are living through hell. Are there some bad ones? Yes. But a majority? No.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, one or two make it bad for everybody, and I get that. But treating somebody less than human, regardless of what they're going through, like, I'm not okay with. And so my son grounds me from Facebook a few times when I get too angry. He'll be like, Mom, get off your phone. Because I just can't stand not saying anything about it. It drives me insane.
Right.
They're human too. We don't know their story. We don't know what they're going through. We don't know what happened to them that day. We have no idea. So there are some great organizations. I lived at Tent City when Tent City was across the street from the police station. And we had people, I mean, just even independent people bringing food to us. I mean, bring blankets, bring shoes, bring drop-offs, donations. They were absolutely amazing. Those are the people that I remember the most.
Oh, that's definitely, that's good. And I like that you are choosing to focus on, you know, the positive aspect. Well, thank you guys for joining in with us. As we close today's conversation, I want to thank our guest for trusting us with her voice and her story. Today was about more than just human trafficking. It was about survival, healing, resilience, and reclaiming her life. I hope this conversation reminds us that survivors are more than what happened to them. Their trauma is part of their story, but it does not define who they are or who they can become. To anyone listening who may see themselves in this conversation, know that there can be life, healing, and hope beyond survival. Thank you for listening, and remember, survival is only one chapter. The rest of your story is still being written.
Absolutely. sleep.
You told me my body was yours, ripped away my confidence and placed it in jars. Sold me dreams that weren't yours to sell. Bargained with the devil, locked my soul in a cell. I look in my hands and I see all the years, battle scars carved by the horn of a steel. Youth of my spirit was stolen away. Tattooed reminders where my innocence lay. Every mirror wore the face of my pain, calling me guilty while carrying your shame. You built your kingdom on pieces of me, but chains can't hold what was born to be free. I bent but I never broke. Every breath became another oath. You buried a seed beneath the dirt. Now watch the garden rise from hurt. My body isn't yours, never was, never will be anymore. You can't own what heaven designed. You lost your claim when I reclaimed my mind. My body isn't yours. These scars became my open doors. You tried to write my destiny. Now I'm rewriting history. I'm breaking every chain you wrapped around my name. Walking through the fire, but I don't burn the same. Fear lost its throne, my soul found its voice. Healing wasn't luck, it became my choice. No more prison doors, no more silent wars, no more bowing down to what I survived before. My body isn't yours, my future's finally mine. Wedding lyrics play in the court of my divorce. A separation with fear and remorse. Depression tried to take me out. Anxiety had my whole life mapped out. Drugs and love became my favorite comorbidities. Still I never found peace or serenity. I just sold my soul just to belong, standing in line to become another verse in your song. Fear was the title written over my life, trying to perfect every role in the fight. A bow before the curtain even had a chance. You counted me out before my first dance, but broken wings still remember the sky, and buried dreams still learn to fly. You overplayed your hand, poker face while in the rain. I stand, darkness stretched as far as I could see, but my higher self kept calling me. My body isn't yours, ooh, never was, never will be anymore. You can't own what heaven designed. You lost your claim when I reclaimed my mind. I'm breaking every chain you wrapped around my name. Walking through the fire, but I don't burn the same. Fear lost its throne, my soul found its voice. Healing wasn't luck, it became my choice. No more prison doors, no more silent wars, no more bowing down to what I survived before. My body isn't yours, my future's finally mine.